Instant happy's going to get you, going to knock you right in the head. Wouldn't that be nice? Just be happy all the time. Well, before there were self-help books and self-help audio books and self-help seminars and gurus and all that, there were self-help magazines. Yeah, Psychology Today has been around a while. And the cover story here, The High Cost of Calm. So I'm going to try to do it in 15 minutes or less, a little summary of the articles I read. This is a library issue, so it's due tomorrow. So let's get going on it. The first article in here that I noticed basically was talking about a few good friends. And we all want to have a few good friends, right? And it's better to have a few good friends than spread yourself too thin and trying to have too many. That applies to real life, certainly on social media. It can work against us and be too stressful when we try to have too many friends. And in real life, just as much. When you try to have too many gatherings and get-togethers too often, it actually creates more stress than any good. They talk about making politics personal, and I don't really know about just spouting off statistics to people, how that really helps anybody, but you know, we'll just have to let that one go. I'm not really into politics too much. They talk about changing your personality, breaking your mold, and that's harder to do than you think, but you can reshape your personality with some work and effort, and that's not a bad thing, called personal transformation. Spirituality, I think today more than ever plays a role in that, but depending how you think about that sort of thing, that's up to each person how they want to go about it. They talk about losing your religion, that people that do discard religion still carry with them a sense of morality, which is probably a good thing. How we're not perfect judges, how we judge too much and we create a lot of distortion and noise out there, adding too many opinions to the mix. They talk about the hoarder. What drives a hoarder? It's partly genetic, partly executive function in our mind, and information processing problem. Hoarders have an emotional attachment to things they just can't part with, and it really affects them in a negative way if they lose some item. They feel like they've lost part of themselves. But, you know, cleaning up the clutter is not a bad idea, so it's a balance. Speaking for the trees, they talk about the environment, how we've lost touch. We've come detached somewhat from nature, and that's not necessarily a good thing for environment. For sure it's not. We need trees, and we need to be planting more trees. Being an extrovert with the right people, that basically if you want to be in a large group or a small group, what works better? And basically they indicate here that a smaller group is better, but at times being with a big group certainly has its benefits. In the mood, they're talking about different supplements that will help you with your mood. And across the board here, they don't give a lot of information. They do talk about a better diet, exercise, activities like meditation, of course, B vitamins, vitamin D3 with K2. Also, I might add some supplements that can help with mood. St. John's wort, rhodiola, and GABA, G-A-B-A, a neurotransmitter, and SAM little e. That's another supplement that seems to help a lot with mood. It does with me. Is casual sex emotionally healthy? I think, you know, we're going to have to say in some isolated rare cases, it might not be a bad thing, but I think as an ongoing thing, they indicate it's probably not. And they talk about a leap of faith. Trust is very important more than ever today. Developing trust, you know, here they show the picture of throwing a person up in the air and trusting they're going to catch them. You know, they do that at rock concerts. But by and large, I think most of us recognize that relationships need that foundation of trust to exist. There's a workbook in here called the Resonant Self Workbook that I ordered online. It looked wonderful. And so I got it online for about 12 bucks by Sarah Peyton, P-E-Y-T-O-N. And I'm looking forward to that and doing that workbook. They talk about low maintenance. And are you doing anything for yourself? So here we go. Number one, identify your emotional needs. We're emotional creatures, let's face it. And so we all have to look at what are our individual emotional needs and how can we meet them. Dig into our origins. Are we too dramatic? Are we overacting? You know, what do we want to? How do we want to live our life? In what way? You know, getting too emotional, sometimes creating unnecessary drama, not a good thing. You can explore that with therapy, and I'm doing that. I think that's a good way, but there are other ways as well. Do you have someone else you can confide in, even a best friend or a wife or a husband? That's not a bad way either. Be an advocate for yourself. Stand up for yourself. And comes with self-esteem, and rewrite your story. You don't have to live in the past beating yourself up There's a way to rewrite things in your past and sort of look at the positives and put a different spin on your story. Now, they're talking here about a neuroscientist who confesses about his skepticism and atheism. And he was basically a person who did believe in God when he had manic depression, bipolar syndrome, which I'd been diagnosed with as well, with anxiety and depression. And he had this God complex, religiosity, where he actually thought he was God sometimes. He talks in here in the article about Kanye West and his Yeezus, believing I am a God, and not a God, different than the God, the creator. But he maintains that with the drugs he takes for bipolar, he's become an atheist again. And I have to agree, I did the same thing. 25 years on those psych meds turned me into a pure atheist. I had no sense of conscience really, or spirituality, even morality. I didn't have much. When I got off the psych meds, which I'm kind of promote that myself, then I regained my sense of spirituality and my connection with the Creator, with God. But this is an interesting article. He actually makes the association here that there's a chemical, dopamine, that has something to do with this belief in God, that more dopamine, you will believe more in God. And without the dopamine, when it's under control, less so. I'm not sure I agree with that totally. They talk about empathy here and how to talk to people about alcoholism. We'll skip over that. We'll go right to the high cost of calm, the high cost of calm. And what do they mean by the high cost of calm? Well, I skimmed the article, and here's some things they talk about. Don't jump to conclusions before you have all the information. Don Miguel Ruiz says that in the Four Agreements. Don't make assumptions. I'm saying that more and more to myself every morning. Don't make assumptions about people. And certainly don't take things personal. That never works. Just lower expectations and do your best to accept everything. He says, distinguish between a bump in the road and the end of the road. Well, that's good. Keeping a perspective in the big picture and not necessarily letting the little things throw you off. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fudge by Mark Manson. I'm listening to that audiobook right now. Some great advice in there. Also, number 3, ask yourself what you need to learn, if anything. I think we're all in a perpetual state of learning. If we think we got it all figured out, man, that's a dead end right there. We know that there's many things that we don't even know that we don't know. And we know so little. No matter how much knowledge any human being has, we still don't know that much. Consider a debrief, and that means not necessarily rehashing the past over and over and ruminating, but reviewing our life on a regular basis. Socrates said, an unexamined life's not worth living. I think we need to do that frequently. Now, 12 ways to curb anxiety and create more calm. And they give a nice little picture there of a bunch of M&Ms in a bottle. I don't know about that. But it says, memorize the following sentence. What is a different way of looking at my situation? Just perspective. Getting a new perspective, a fresh perspective can work wonders for anxiety. If you have a dog, take it for a walk. If you have a cat, I don't know if you can take that for a walk, but 30 minutes a day, go out for a walk or a hike. I try to get in 3 miles a day, and my average is up to 2.5 a day now, so I'm working on that. Drink lots of water. Recommend quality water without fluoride. Drop and do 10 push-ups. A little exercise never hurt. Really, you got to move it, use it or lose it. Keep the body moving. Think of a person you admire who sees a glass as half full. I mean, optimism goes without saying. That can help create calm. Practice the Pomodoro technique, and that is do a little bit of work for 10, 15, 25 minutes. Set a timer, and then take a little break. And so you do it in little segments, and you sort of compartmentalize your life. Find a mindful activity to ease yourself through transitions. So this can, meditation works for me. Mindfulness can come in other ways, just by letting go of the anxiety, the worrying, and that means to kind of focus your mind on something purposefully, the Zen, as it were. Whether you're cutting the grass or making a cake, just focus on what you're doing in the present. Clear your clutter. That's another good point. Got to get the clutter out. It helps clear the mind. Read a newspaper, a physical magazine like I'm doing instead of online articles. They say that will calm you down. Focus on reality, not the fantasy world we manufacture in our minds so often. Make a fun plan with the right people who are good for your mental health. I mean, hanging out with positive people that you admire and emulate and would like to be more like, that can help. And just accepting your anxiety. Just simple acceptance that we're human and we're going to have anxiety sometimes. is better than running away from it and denying it. And here's some other tips. Focus on the breath, not the anxiety. And that plays into meditation, where you want to pay attention just to the breath and not the mental chatter. Train yourself to associate the breath with relaxation. And I'm not going to go too deep into that, but there's many tips online. You can find that, or in many books as well, about breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in God, or positive, however you want to word it, and let out the negative and the stress. And you fill your lungs and try to do some deep abdominal breathing. And also when you exhale, purse the lips together and make a humming sound. This will slow down your exhale. It's very important. They sell an online product called the Cosimo straw, and that's all that thing does. That's why it works. You breathe in like this and out like this. Believe me, I can breathe out like that for 30, 35 seconds. So you can literally take a breath and only breathe 2 or 3 times in a minute. And then they're talking here about animals, pets, puppy dogs. That can be a great way to reduce stress, hanging out with your animal. And it's well known that dogs or cats or even gerbils or snakes can comfort people. And there's something we can look after and care for. The law of emotional mastery. A little article here talking about physical fitness, but also that's mental fitness is just as important as physical fitness. And so they talk about having different bad thoughts, such as racism. That causes more damage than bad viruses. It's a fact. Think about that. And those who can't tolerate acute temporary discomfort now condemn themselves to chronic suffering later. So the idea is we have to accept a little bit of discomfort and anxiety and pain and suffering in our life in the short run. Not try to just run away from it all the time, especially not with things like television, sex, gambling, drugs, escapism. Just dealing with it in the moment, a lot of times will be a lot more positive way to get through it and get past it. It says, don't let the emotions run your life. In other words, we generally do that, but there is a way to overcome it and find that balance. Mark Manson, again, talks about that in his books. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fudge, and Everything is Fudged. And I'm paraphrasing, what word he says in the book. They talk about stimulating the vagus nerve, and I've given an exercise online in my videos on how to do that, so you can look that up. Also, that breathing technique I just mentioned, or some humming, and that's a very good technique for stimulating the vagus nerve. Being conscious of your breathing. Push your body a little bit. Don't just live in that zone of sitting around being complacent. Make it work a little bit. Humor. A distraction with humor is wonderful. That's why I got back to film and talked about movies earlier tonight in my video on why I like film and movies. Narrow your focus. Stop being so diffused, with thousands and millions of choices we're offered online. Try to narrow the focus a little bit with some Zen. Recognize the feelings that we're having. Have a plan. Make a plan and try and stick to it, but be flexible. And have little rituals, positive rituals that can help you in the day. So the last article here is the power of people watching. And I think most of us do that from time to time. We like to observe other people out there in the world, and that's fun. It's not necessarily about being critical or making fun of them, just observing other people, how we're so similar and so different in many ways. And so life without anxiety rules. So there you are. There's the summary of the book, the magazine rather, Psychology Today, and there's a little kitty cat on the back for those of you who like cats more than dogs, but I like them both. I don't own either one or have them as pets, but I think they're wonderful animals, and they can certainly help you calm down. Of course, they can create a little anxiety and tension now and then when they do things, misbehave, or get sick or something. That's part of life. Being nurturing and giving is a way to help ourselves grow as a human being and enjoy our life and appreciate it and extend that help to others when they need our assistance. So hope that helped you out a little bit. Happy trails, my friends. Peace and love.